I stood in my childhood bedroom staring at a handwritten schedule my mother posted on my door: Summer Childcare Duties. Armin. 6 names listed beneath it. 6 kids ages 4 through 12. 12 weeks of unpaid labor while my parents worked their demanding careers. They assumed their 26-year-old son would sacrifice his summer without question, just like I always had. But this time would be different. This time I had prepared something my family could never imagine. My mother's shocked gasp 3 months later would prove it. The morning after discovering that schedule, I sat at our kitchen table watching my mother, Dr. Patricia Wells, rush through her coffee while reviewing surgical notes. My father, Robert Wells, stood by the counter in his perfectly pressed suit, already taking calls from his corporate law firm. Neither acknowledged my presence until Patricia thrust a thick folder toward me. "Everything you need is in there, Armin. Emergency contacts, dietary restrictions, activity schedules. Carol's 3 will arrive Monday morning when her surgery starts. My Aunt Carol's kids. Tyler, 10 years old, with boundless energy. Madison, 7, who asked endless questions about everything. Lucas, 6, quiet but observant. They would join my 3 younger siblings for what my parents called a wonderful summer learning experience, but what I recognized as 12 weeks of free labor. Emma, my 12-year-old sister, had always struggled with math, despite being bright and creative. She spent most of her time reading fantasy novels, escaping into worlds where heroes overcame impossible odds. Jake, 8, battled reading difficulties that frustrated him daily. He was athletic and social, but felt stupid because words seemed to jumble on pages. Sophie, our 4-year-old, was energetic and curious, but needed constant attention and structured activities to thrive. "I've arranged everything perfectly," Patricia continued, not looking up from her medical charts. "The kids will have a structured summer. You'll contribute meaningfully to household expenses, and Carol gets the professional care she needs during recovery." Robert nodded approvingly. "It's time you started pulling your weight around here, son. 2 years since graduation and you're still figuring things out. This will give you responsibility and purpose." Their words stung because they contained enough truth to hurt. I had struggled to find meaningful work after completing my business degree. The job market was competitive, and I was particular about opportunities that matched my interests and skills. Living at home temporarily felt necessary, but increasingly uncomfortable, as my parents made their disappointment clear through comments like these. What they didn't know was that I had spent months quietly developing something that could change everything. During late nights and early mornings, while they assumed I was sleeping or wasting time, I had been researching market opportunities in educational support services. The idea came from observing parents in our suburban community struggle to find quality tutoring and enrichment programs for their children. "I'll take care of everything," I told them, accepting the folder. "The kids will be in good hands." Patricia finally looked up, studying my face with the same analytical expression she used when examining patients. "Good. Carol is paying us $1,500 weekly for your services. That money will cover your room and board, plus contribute to household expenses." My stomach dropped. $1,500 weekly, $7,800 monthly. My aunt was paying my parents nearly $24,000 for my summer childcare services, and they intended to keep every penny while telling me I was contributing to household expenses through unpaid labor. Robert smiled with satisfaction. "We've told Carol that you're trained in child development and educational enrichment. She's getting professional level service, and we're finally seeing some return on our investment in your education." Professional level service. They were charging premium rates for my work while treating me like an unpaid intern. The injustice burned, but I forced myself to remain calm. Getting angry would accomplish nothing. Instead, I would channel this revelation into motivation for the plan I had been quietly developing. That afternoon, I gathered the 6 kids in our family room to establish ground rules and get acquainted. Emma sat cross-legged on the carpet with a thick novel, glancing up occasionally with guarded interest. Jake bounced a basketball against his knee, clearly wishing he was outside. Sophie arranged her stuffed animals in complex social hierarchies that only she understood. Tyler arrived with endless questions about our house, our neighborhood, and whether I knew any cool facts about dinosaurs or space exploration. Madison immediately began teaching Sophie a clapping game she had learned at school, showing natural leadership abilities. Lucas observed everything, quietly processing information before deciding how to engage. This summer is going to be different from anything you've experienced before, I told them, sitting on the floor at their level. We're going to learn things that will help you succeed in school and discover talents you didn't know you had. Emma looked skeptical. Are you going to make us do homework during vacation? Not homework, I replied. Adventures that happen to involve learning. Math through cooking and building projects, reading through storytelling games, science through experiments that actually explode safely. Jake stopped bouncing his basketball. Explosions, safe ones, I assured him. We're going to explore how things work and why they work that way. Over the following days, I observed each child's interests, learning style, and areas where they needed support. Emma was brilliant, but lacked confidence in subjects that required logical reasoning. Jake was kinesthetic and needed to move while learning. Sophie craved attention and responded well to praise and encouragement. Tyler had natural scientific curiosity but needed guidance channeling his energy productively. Madison was socially intelligent and thrived when given opportunities to teach others. Lucas was methodical and excelled when given time to process information thoroughly. I also began implementing the business plan I had spent months developing. LearnBridge was my concept for a specialized tutoring platform that connected qualified educators with families needing personalized academic support. Unlike generic tutoring services that followed rigid curricula, LearnBridge would provide customized learning experiences designed around each child's interests and strengths. During nap time and after the kids went home in the evenings, I worked on building relationships with local families who had expressed frustration with available educational options. I had already identified 12 families in our neighborhood whose children struggled with traditional classroom approaches or needed enrichment beyond what schools provided. Mrs. Anderson from 3 houses down had mentioned her concern about her daughter's declining interest in mathematics. Mr. Thompson struggled to find science enrichment for his intellectually gifted son. The Rodriguez family wanted their twins to develop stronger reading comprehension skills before starting high school. I began offering informal tutoring services, charging $25 per hour for personalized academic support. My approach focused on making learning engaging and relevant while addressing specific areas where children needed help. Unlike my parents, these families recognized and appreciated the value I provided. Within 2 weeks, I was earning $300 to $400 weekly through private tutoring while simultaneously caring for my assigned 6 children. The irony was not lost on me. Other families paid me willingly for services my own parents expected for free while profiting from my unpaid labor. But the real revelation came when I accidentally overheard my mother's phone conversation with Aunt Carol. I was bringing snacks to the kids in the backyard when Patricia's voice carried through the open kitchen window. "You're getting incredible value, Carol. Armin has background in child development and educational theory. The kids are receiving expert-level care with academic enrichment that would cost twice as much through professional services. Child development background, educational theory. My parents were representing me as having qualifications I had never claimed while charging premium rates for my services. They were essentially committing fraud while I provided genuine value that they neither recognized nor appreciated. Don't worry about the cost," Patricia continued. "Think of it as an investment in their academic future. Armin is creating customized learning experiences that will give them advantages when school starts again." The conversation continued, but I had heard enough. My parents were profiting from my work while simultaneously dismissing my capabilities and treating me as a burden. They were marketing my services professionally to relatives while denying me any recognition or compensation for the value I created. That night, I lay awake planning my response. Getting angry would accomplish nothing. Confronting them directly would only create conflict without changing their fundamental attitudes. Instead, I would prove my worth through results that they could not ignore or dismiss. I would build something so successful and undeniable that they would be forced to recognize me as the professional they were already telling others I was. And when the moment was right, I would reveal the truth in a way that would transform their understanding of who I was and what I was capable of achieving. The discovery of my parents' deception ignited something deep within me that I hadn't felt since graduating college. For 2 years, I had allowed their disappointment and subtle criticism to erode my confidence. I had begun to question my abilities and wonder if they were right about my lack of direction and purpose. But learning that they were charging premium rates for my childcare services while keeping every penny changed everything. If they believed my work was worth $1,500 weekly to Aunt Carol, then other families would recognize that same value. I just needed to position myself correctly in the marketplace. I spent the next several days establishing LearnBridge as a legitimate business entity. I filed paperwork with the county clerk's office, obtained necessary permits for providing educational services, and established separate business banking accounts. Every step was completed during early morning hours or late evenings, when the household was quiet. My business plan focused on addressing real problems that traditional tutoring services failed to solve. Most tutoring companies used college students following standardized curricula, providing generic assistance that rarely addressed underlying learning difficulties. LearnBridge would offer something entirely different: personalized educational experiences, designed by someone with business training and genuine understanding of how learning actually works. I had spent months researching educational psychology, child development theory, and innovative teaching methodologies. Unlike my parents' false claims about my background, I was actually developing real expertise through systematic study and practical application. The 6 children under my care became my first case studies in applied educational theory. Instead of simply keeping them busy with activities, I began implementing structured learning experiences that targeted their specific needs and interests. Emma's struggles with mathematics stemmed from anxiety rather than inability. Traditional approaches emphasized memorization and speed, which triggered her fear of making mistakes. I redesigned her learning experience around storytelling and creative problem-solving using narrative frameworks to make mathematical concepts feel like adventures rather than tests. We created elaborate fantasy worlds where mathematical principles governed magical systems. Calculating ratios became potion-making formulas. Geometric concepts became architectural blueprints for castle construction. Word problems transformed into epic quests requiring logical reasoning to succeed. Within weeks, Emma's mathematical confidence improved dramatically. She began approaching problems with curiosity rather than fear, and her accuracy increased as anxiety decreased. Most importantly, she started enjoying subjects that had previously frustrated her. Jake's reading difficulties required a completely different approach. Traditional methods emphasized sitting still and focusing on text, which contradicted his kinesthetic learning style. I incorporated movement and hands-on activities into reading instruction, allowing him to engage physically while processing written information. We acted out stories, built scenes from books using blocks and toys, and created physical games that reinforced phonics principles. Jake learned to associate reading with fun and movement rather than frustration and failure. His reading level improved rapidly once we aligned instruction with his natural learning preferences. Sophie thrived with structured activities that incorporated music, art, and social interaction. Madison responded well to opportunities for leadership and teaching others. Lucas excelled when given quiet time to process information before participating in group activities. Each child's progress validated my educational approach while providing concrete evidence of my professional capabilities. I documented everything meticulously, creating portfolios that tracked academic improvements, behavioral changes, and developmental milestones. Simultaneously, I began expanding my private tutoring services to additional families in the neighborhood. Word spread quickly about my unconventional but effective teaching methods. Parents noticed immediate improvements in their children's attitudes toward learning and academic performance. Mrs. Patterson hired me to work with her 9-year-old son, who struggled with attention difficulties. Traditional tutors had failed because they couldn't adapt to his need for movement and frequent breaks. My approach incorporated physical activity and hands-on learning that kept him engaged while addressing his academic needs. The Henderson family requested help with their daughter's science education. She was intellectually gifted but bored with grade-level material. I designed advanced experiments and research projects that challenged her while developing critical thinking skills that would serve her throughout her academic career. Mr. Chen wanted his twins to develop stronger writing abilities before starting middle school. I created a storytelling workshop that combined creative writing with grammar instruction, making language arts feel like artistic expression rather than tedious rule memorization. Each family paid me $25 to $30 per hour for services they couldn't find elsewhere. I was earning $800 to $1,000 weekly through private tutoring while providing exceptional care for my assigned 6 children. The irony grew more pronounced daily as my parents dismissed my capabilities while I demonstrated professional expertise that other families valued highly. But the most significant breakthrough came when I accidentally overheard another phone conversation, this time between my parents discussing my apparent improvement in attitude and responsibility. "I think the child care arrangement is finally teaching him some maturity," Robert told Patricia over breakfast. "He seems more focused and confident lately." Patricia agreed. Maybe having real responsibility is exactly what he needed. Carol mentioned how impressed she is with the children's progress. They're actually excited about learning now. "We should consider charging other families for his services," Robert continued. "If he's this effective with 6 kids, imagine what we could earn by expanding his responsibilities." They were planning to profit further from my unpaid labor, while attributing my growing confidence to their wisdom in assigning me childcare duties. They had no idea that my increased focus and energy came from building a successful business that validated my professional abilities. That conversation revealed how completely they misunderstood the situation. They believed they were training me to be responsible when I was actually demonstrating entrepreneurial skills they couldn't recognize. They thought they were providing me with purpose when I had already found it through my own initiative and hard work. I began documenting every aspect of my business development and the children's educational progress. Financial records, client testimonials, academic assessments, and developmental portfolios would provide irrefutable evidence of my professional success when the time came to reveal the truth. LearnBridge was exceeding my initial projections. Demand for my services outpaced my available time, and I began developing plans to hire additional qualified tutors who shared my educational philosophy. What had started as a response to my parents' unfair treatment was evolving into something with genuine potential for long-term success and community impact. The children under my care continued flourishing under my structured approach to learning and development. Their academic improvements were becoming obvious to everyone who interacted with them regularly. Teachers from their previous school year called to compliment the educational support they were receiving over the summer. Emma tested out of remedial mathematics and qualified for advanced classes when fall semester began. Jake's reading level improved by 2 full grades during our first month together. Sophie developed vocabulary and social skills that impressed everyone who met her. Tyler, Madison, and Lucas showed similar dramatic improvements in various academic areas. But perhaps the most satisfying aspect was watching their attitudes toward learning transform. They began approaching challenges with curiosity rather than fear, asking questions instead of avoiding difficulties, and developing confidence in their intellectual abilities. My parents noticed these changes but attributed them to good parenting decisions and natural maturation rather than recognizing the systematic educational approach I had implemented. They praised themselves for creating an environment where children could thrive while remaining oblivious to the professional expertise being demonstrated right under their noses. As summer progressed, I continued building my business while preparing for the moment when I would reveal everything to my parents. The contrast between their perception of my abilities and the reality of my professional success would provide the foundation for a conversation that would fundamentally change our relationship. I was no longer the dependent adult child they could dismiss and manipulate. I was becoming an independent professional with valuable skills and growing business success. When the revelation came, they would have to confront their assumptions and acknowledge the worth they had consistently failed to recognize. By the fourth week of summer, LearnBridge had evolved from a personal response to family injustice into something approaching a legitimate educational enterprise. Word about my unconventional teaching methods and the dramatic improvements in children's academic performance spread through our suburban community faster than I had anticipated. Mrs. Davidson approached me after church one Sunday morning with tears in her eyes. Her daughter Rachel had struggled with severe mathematics anxiety that made homework sessions traumatic for their entire family. Traditional tutoring had failed because it followed the same anxiety-inducing approaches that caused problems in the classroom. "I don't know what you did differently," she told me, "but Rachel actually asked to work on math problems yesterday. She hasn't shown interest in mathematics since second grade." Rachel's transformation had occurred through my systematic approach to rebuilding mathematical confidence. Instead of focusing on speed and accuracy, I emphasized understanding and exploration. We used manipulatives, visual representations, and real-world applications that made abstract concepts concrete and accessible. The success stories multiplied rapidly. Tommy Richardson went from failing reading comprehension to testing above grade level in 6 weeks. Sarah Martinez developed scientific curiosity that led her to conduct independent research projects on topics that fascinated her. David Park overcame his fear of public speaking through storytelling workshops that built confidence gradually and systematically. Each success generated referrals to additional families seeking educational support that traditional services couldn't provide. I found myself coordinating with other college-educated young adults who needed summer income and shared my passion for innovative educational approaches. Jessica Williams had recently completed her degree in elementary education, but struggled to find full-time teaching positions in our competitive school district. She possessed natural talent for working with children who had learning differences and attention difficulties. Marcus Thompson finished his psychology degree with specialization in child development. He excelled at creating engaging activities for intellectually gifted children who needed advanced academic challenges beyond what regular classrooms could offer. Danielle Foster had studied art therapy and understood how creative expression could support emotional development and academic learning. She designed programs that helped children process difficult experiences while developing artistic skills and self-confidence. Together, we formed an informal network of specialized educational providers who could address diverse learning needs more effectively than generic tutoring services. I began coordinating client referrals and developing collaborative programs that combined our different areas of expertise. The business model was simple but powerful. Families paid premium rates for personalized educational support that actually worked. We earned professional-level income while providing services that made meaningful differences in children's lives. Everyone benefited from arrangements that created value rather than simply consuming time. I established quality standards and training protocols to ensure consistent excellence across all LearnBridge services. We met weekly to share successful strategies, discuss challenging cases, and develop new approaches for addressing complex learning difficulties. Meanwhile, the 6 children under my direct care continued serving as proof of concept for my educational philosophy. Their academic progress was becoming impossible to ignore, even for my parents who remained focused on their own professional responsibilities. Emma had progressed from struggling with basic arithmetic to solving complex word problems that required multi-step reasoning and creative thinking. Her confidence in mathematical ability transformed her approach to other academic subjects as well. She began tackling challenging reading assignments and expressing interest in science topics that had previously seemed intimidating. Jake's reading improvement was even more dramatic. He progressed from below-grade level decoding skills to reading chapter books independently. More importantly, he developed genuine love for stories and began writing his own adventure narratives during quiet time. Sophie's vocabulary development and social skills impressed everyone who interacted with her. She could engage in complex conversations with adults and demonstrated emotional intelligence that seemed advanced for her age. Her enthusiasm for learning was contagious and motivated the older children to maintain high effort levels. Tyler, Madison, and Lucas showed similar remarkable progress in their respective areas of need. Tyler's scientific curiosity led him to conduct experiments and research projects that exceeded middle school level expectations. Madison's natural leadership abilities flourished as she began teaching other children and organizing collaborative learning activities. Lucas developed strong analytical thinking skills and became the group's problem-solving specialist. I documented every aspect of their educational journey with photographs, work samples, assessment results, and developmental observations. The portfolios I created provided concrete evidence of systematic educational progress that resulted from intentional instructional design rather than natural maturation. But perhaps the most significant development was the recognition I began receiving from parents, teachers, and community members who observed the changes in the children I worked with regularly. Phone calls and emails requesting my services arrived daily from families throughout our area and neighboring communities. Dr. Mitchell from the local elementary school contacted me about providing consulting services for their summer enrichment program. The county library invited me to develop and lead educational workshops for struggling readers. 3 private schools inquired about establishing ongoing partnerships with LearnBridge for supplemental academic support. Professional opportunities were emerging that validated my educational expertise and business development skills. I was no longer just responding to my parents' unfair treatment. I was building something with legitimate potential for long-term career success and community impact. The financial aspects were equally encouraging. LearnBridge was generating over $4,000 weekly through direct tutoring services, consulting contracts, and workshop facilitation. I reinvested profits into expanding our service offerings, hiring additional qualified staff members, and developing specialized programs for children with diverse learning needs. My personal earnings exceeded what many full-time professionals made, all while maintaining exceptional care and educational programming for the 6 children my parents assumed I was watching for free. The contrast between their perception of my contribution and the reality of my professional success became more pronounced each week. But they remained completely unaware of my business activities. They saw me getting up early and staying busy with the children, but they attributed my increased energy and confidence to finally accepting responsibility and contributing to household expenses through unpaid childcare services. Robert even mentioned to colleagues that he was considering expanding my childcare responsibilities to additional families, believing he could profit from my free labor, while I demonstrated professional expertise that other families valued highly enough to pay premium rates. The irony was becoming almost comedic. My parents complained about supporting me financially while I earned more money in a month than they budgeted for my room and board for an entire year. They questioned my professional abilities while I built a successful business that provided valuable services to dozens of families. I began planning the dramatic revelation that would expose their fundamental misunderstanding of my capabilities and worth. The timing needed to be perfect with maximum impact and undeniable evidence of my professional success. The annual family barbecue in late August would provide the ideal opportunity. Extended relatives, including Aunt Carol, would be present to witness my announcement. My parents would feel secure in their assumptions about my dependent status and lack of professional achievement. I would reveal everything at once: the business success, the educational impact, the professional recognition, and the financial independence they believed I lacked. Their shock and disbelief would be matched by irrefutable documentation of achievements they had dismissed as impossible. But first, I needed to complete one final phase of preparation. The revelation would be most powerful if it demonstrated not just past success, but future potential that exceeded their highest expectations for my professional development. August arrived with unprecedented momentum for LearnBridge. What had begun as a strategic response to my parents' exploitation had evolved into something that surprised even my most optimistic projections. The business was no longer just successful, it was becoming transformative for our entire educational community. The official launch of our comprehensive platform occurred on the first Monday of August, with 12 contracted tutors and 35 client families. I had spent weeks developing training materials, establishing quality assurance protocols, and creating systems for coordinating services across multiple educational specialties. Our team included specialists in learning differences, gifted education test preparation, college counseling, and therapeutic support services. Each team member brought unique expertise that allowed us to address virtually any educational challenge families encountered. Revenue growth exceeded my most ambitious forecasts. We were generating over $4,000 weekly by the second week of August, with demand continuing to accelerate as word spread about our effectiveness and comprehensive approach to educational support. Local schools began referring struggling students to LearnBridge when traditional intervention strategies proved insufficient. We received inquiries from parents in neighboring communities who traveled significant distances to access our specialized services. The success stories continued multiplying. Jennifer Walsh overcame severe writing anxiety and began composing poetry that her teachers described as exceptional. Michael Torres improved from failing mathematics to testing into advanced algebra, despite being a full year younger than typical students in that program. Christina Adams developed scientific research skills that led to her winning the regional science fair with a project on environmental sustainability that impressed judges from local universities. Her mother credited LearnBridge with igniting academic passion that transformed her daughter's entire educational experience. Each success generated additional referrals and opportunities for expanding our services. I began developing partnerships with complementary service providers, including educational psychologists, speech therapists, and college admissions consultants who shared our commitment to individualized approaches. The business demanded increasingly sophisticated management systems. I hired Amanda Clark, a recent MBA graduate, to handle operations and financial management, while I focused on educational programming and strategic development. Her expertise in organizational systems and process optimization allowed us to scale efficiently while maintaining service quality. 3 additional locations were established to serve different geographic areas more conveniently. Each location maintained our standards for personalized attention and innovative teaching methods, while adapting to local community needs and preferences. Professional recognition was beginning to extend beyond our immediate area. The State Education Department invited me to present our approach at their annual conference on innovative educational practices. 2 universities contacted me about developing research partnerships to study the effectiveness of our methodologies. Local media coverage featured LearnBridge as an example of successful youth entrepreneurship and educational innovation. The newspaper article included testimonials from families whose children had overcome significant academic challenges through our programs. But the most gratifying aspect remained the continued progress of the 6 children under my direct care. They had become living testimonials to the effectiveness of systematic, individualized educational approaches. Emma was reading at high school level and had developed genuine passion for mathematical problem solving that led her to request additional challenge problems during free time. Her teachers were already discussing acceleration options for the upcoming school year. Jake's transformation was even more remarkable. He had progressed from struggling reader to accomplished storyteller who wrote original adventure novels during quiet periods. His latest story featured complex character development and sophisticated plot structures that impressed everyone who read his work. Sophie's intellectual and social development seemed to accelerate daily. She could engage in philosophical discussions about fairness and justice that demonstrated abstract thinking abilities typically associated with much older children. Her emotional intelligence and empathy made her a natural leader among peers. Tyler had become our resident scientist, conducting independent research projects that required him to master concepts typically taught in high school chemistry and biology courses. His curiosity and systematic thinking skills were extraordinary. Madison's leadership abilities had flourished to the point where she was designing and facilitating learning activities for younger children in our programs. Her natural teaching instincts and ability to connect with diverse learners made her an invaluable team member, despite her young age. Lucas had developed analytical and problem-solving abilities that allowed him to tackle complex challenges with methodical approaches that consistently produce successful outcomes. His quiet confidence and careful thinking made him the group's most reliable resource for difficult questions. I documented their progress through comprehensive portfolios that included work samples, assessment results, teacher observations, and photographic evidence of their engagement and enthusiasm. The portfolios would provide powerful testimony to the effectiveness of professional educational intervention when the time came to reveal my business success. My personal growth during this period was equally significant. Managing a rapidly expanding business while maintaining direct service delivery had developed leadership skills and professional confidence that I'd never experienced previously. I was making decisions that affected dozens of families and staff members. I was solving complex problems related to scheduling, quality control, financial management, and strategic planning. I was representing our organization in professional meetings and community presentations. The experience was transforming my understanding of my own capabilities and potential. I had discovered abilities and interests that my parents had never recognized or encouraged. I was succeeding at exactly the kind of professional challenges they claimed I was avoiding or incapable of handling. Financial independence was no longer a distant goal, but a present reality. LearnBridge was generating sufficient income to cover not just my personal expenses, but also reinvestment in business growth and staff development. I was earning more money than either of my parents while creating employment opportunities for other qualified young professionals. The contrast with my parents' perception of my situation became almost surreal. They continued treating me as a dependent adult child who needed guidance and support, while I demonstrated entrepreneurial success that exceeded their own professional achievements. They praised themselves for providing me with character-building experiences through unpaid childcare responsibilities, while I built a business that would soon employ 15 qualified professionals and serve over 50 families throughout our region. The irony reached its peak when Robert mentioned to dinner guests that he was proud of how I was finally learning responsibility and contributing to society through family service. He had no idea that I was already contributing far more to our community through professional services that families valued highly enough to pay premium rates. But I maintained my silence and continued preparing for the revelation that would transform their understanding of everything they thought they knew about my capabilities and character. The annual family barbecue was approaching, and I was ready to present evidence that would fundamentally change our relationship dynamics. I had scheduled the announcement for maximum impact. Extended family members would be present to witness my presentation of business success and professional recognition. My parents would be forced to confront their assumptions in front of relatives who had been told I was providing expert educational services while actually watching me build legitimate expertise through systematic effort and innovative thinking. The revelation would demonstrate not just past success, but future potential that positioned me as an independent professional rather than a dependent family member requiring guidance and support. They would have to acknowledge that their assessment of my abilities had been fundamentally wrong and that their treatment of me had been based on outdated assumptions about my worth and potential. Late August brought an unexpected acceleration in both my business success and the anticipation building toward the family barbecue where I would reveal everything. The convergence of professional milestones and personal vindication created an almost surreal sense of approaching triumph. LearnBridge had secured its 50th client family by August 20th, marking a milestone that seemed impossible when I first conceptualized the business model just months earlier. The achievement represented more than numerical growth. It demonstrated that our approach to educational support addressed real community needs that traditional services had failed to meet. More significantly, my team had expanded to include 15 professional tutors whose combined expertise covered virtually every academic challenge that students might encounter. We had specialists in dyslexia, intervention, autism spectrum support, gifted education, acceleration test, anxiety, reduction, college preparation, and therapeutic learning approaches. Monthly revenue was approaching $18,000, with projections indicating continued growth as school year demands increased our visibility and referral rates. I was no longer just running a successful small business. I was building an educational enterprise with legitimate potential for regional expansion and long-term impact. The personal satisfaction extended beyond financial metrics. I was creating employment opportunities for qualified professionals who shared my commitment to individualized educational approaches. Our team meetings had become collaborative sessions where innovative strategies emerged from combining diverse expertise and creative thinking. But perhaps the most profound development was my acceptance to Northwestern University's MBA program, with a full academic scholarship based on my demonstrated entrepreneurial success and community impact. The scholarship committee had been impressed by LearnBridge's rapid growth innovative approach and measurable outcomes for students with diverse learning needs. The MBA acceptance validated my business acumen and professional potential in ways that my parents had never recognized or encouraged. Northwestern was not just accepting me as a graduate student. They were investing in my future success based on achievements I had accomplished independently while living under their roof. I had planned to announce my graduate school acceptance along with my business success at the family barbecue, creating a comprehensive presentation of professional achievement that would fundamentally transform my parents' perception of my capabilities and future potential. The 6 children under my direct care had become living testimonials to my educational expertise. Their academic progress was so dramatic that teachers from their previous schools requested meetings to understand what instructional approaches had produced such remarkable improvements. Emma's mathematics confidence had developed to the point where she was solving problems typically assigned to students 2 grade levels above her current placement. Her success had restored her belief in her intellectual abilities and opened academic pathways that seemed impossible just months earlier. Jake was not only reading independently, but writing original stories that demonstrated sophisticated understanding of narrative structure, character development, and thematic complexity. His latest novel featured environmental themes and social justice issues that revealed mature thinking about complex societal problems. Sophie's intellectual and emotional development continued exceeding typical developmental milestones. She could engage in philosophical discussions about ethics and justice while maintaining the curiosity and wonder that made learning joyful rather than burdensome. Tyler had designed and conducted scientific experiments that required him to master concepts from multiple advanced courses. His systematic approach to research and natural curiosity about how things worked made him an exceptional young scientist. Madison's leadership abilities had flourished to the point where other parents requested her assistance with organizing learning activities for their children. Her natural teaching instincts and ability to motivate peers made her an invaluable team member. Lucas had developed analytical thinking skills that allowed him to solve complex problems through methodical reasoning and careful observation. His quiet confidence and reliable judgment made him everyone's preferred partner for challenging academic tasks. I documented their progress through comprehensive portfolios that included before and after assessments work samples, demonstrating growth teacher testimonials, and photographic evidence of their engagement and enthusiasm. The portfolios would provide irrefutable evidence of my professional effectiveness when presented to my skeptical parents. But the most emotionally significant preparation involved reflecting on years of being undervalued and dismissed as lacking direction or purpose. The upcoming revelation represented more than business success. It symbolized my declaration of independence and proof of worth that my parents had consistently failed to recognize. I remembered countless conversations where they expressed disappointment in my career, progress, and questioned my commitment to achieving meaningful professional success. They had attributed my temporary residence at home to laziness, rather than strategic planning, and they had dismissed my interests as impractical rather than innovative. Their treatment of me during the summer had epitomized their fundamental misunderstanding of my character and capabilities. They had assigned unpaid childcare responsibilities while profiting from my services, believing they were teaching me responsibility when I was actually demonstrating entrepreneurial skills they couldn't perceive. The irony had become almost absurd. They complained about supporting me financially while I earned more money monthly than they allocated for my annual living expenses. They questioned my professional abilities while I built a successful business that provided valuable services to dozens of families throughout our community. But their misperception would end at the family barbecue. I had prepared a comprehensive presentation that would reveal not just my business success, but the systematic development of expertise and professional recognition that validated my approach to education and entrepreneurship. The timing was perfect. Extended family members, including Aunt Carol, would be present to witness my announcement and confirm the professional services I had been providing while my parents collected payment without offering compensation or recognition. 3 local families who had become LearnBridge clients would also attend the barbecue as family friends, providing additional witnesses to my professional effectiveness and business success. Their presence would make my revelation impossible to dismiss or minimize. I had also invited Amanda Clark, my operations manager, to attend as a colleague rather than employee, demonstrating the professional relationships and business leadership that my parents believed I was incapable of developing. The presentation materials were prepared with the same attention to detail that I applied to all LearnBridge services. Financial statements, client testimonials, academic outcome data, and professional recognition documentation would provide comprehensive evidence of achievement that my parents could not question or dismiss. But beyond the documentation, the most powerful evidence would be the transformation visible in the 6 children whose educational progress had resulted from my systematic approach to learning and development. Their success would speak more eloquently than any financial statement about the value and effectiveness of my professional work. The revelation would mark not just the end of my parents' exploitation, but the beginning of a new relationship based on recognition of my worth and respect for my professional capabilities. They would have to acknowledge that their assessment had been wrong and their treatment had been unfair. More importantly, I would finally be free to pursue my professional goals with family support rather than skepticism and criticism. The MBA program at Northwestern would provide opportunities for continuing my educational innovation while building business leadership skills that could expand LearnBridge's impact beyond our current community. The morning of our annual family barbecue arrived with perfect late August weather. clear skies, comfortable temperature, and a gentle breeze that made our backyard ideal for the gathering that would transform everything my parents believed about me and my capabilities. I had spent the previous evening organizing my presentation materials with the same systematic attention to detail that made LearnBridge successful. Financial statements, client testimonials, academic outcome data, professional recognition documentation, and MBA acceptance letter were arranged in portfolios that would tell the complete story of my summer achievements. Extended family began arriving around noon. Aunt Carol came with Tyler Madison and Lucas, all three children eager to show relatives the projects they had completed during their time with LearnBridge. Uncle David and his family drove down from Milwaukee. Grandparents arrived from both sides along with several family friends who had become part of our traditional end-of-summer celebration. My parents moved through the gathering with visible pride, playing the role of successful professionals who had raised responsible children and maintained strong family traditions. They had no idea that their assumptions about my dependent status and lack of direction were about to be shattered in front of everyone they wanted to impress. Patricia circulated among guests wearing the confident smile she reserved for social occasions where she could demonstrate her success and good judgment. Robert grilled hamburgers and bratwurst while holding court with other fathers discussing careers and family achievements with the satisfaction of someone who believed he had everything under control. The children I had worked with all summer moved through the gathering with confidence and enthusiasm that impressed every adult who interacted with them. Emma engaged relatives in discussions about books she had read and mathematical concepts she had mastered. Jake told stories about his writing projects and demonstrated reading skills that amazed everyone who remembered his struggles just months earlier. Sophie charmed guests with vocabulary and social skills that seemed advanced beyond her years. Tyler eagerly explained scientific experiments he had conducted and theories he had developed about natural phenomena. Madison organized games and activities for younger cousins with natural leadership that made her everyone's favorite. Lucas contributed thoughtful observations and insights that revealed analytical thinking abilities that surprised adults who had expected typical childhood responses. Their transformation was visible to everyone present, providing compelling evidence of the educational impact that would soon be revealed as my professional achievement rather than natural maturation or good parenting decisions. Around 3 p.m, Patricia called for everyone's attention to make what she believed would be routine announcements about family updates and achievements. She began with congratulations for various relatives' accomplishments before transitioning to what she considered her main presentation. I want to share some exciting developments with Armin's summer responsibilities, she announced, beaming with maternal pride. He has done such exceptional work with childcare and educational support that we've arranged for him to expand his services to additional families next summer. She gestured toward me with the confident assumption that I would graciously accept this expansion of unpaid labor while she continued profiting from my services. The Williams family has already requested his assistance with their 3 children, and the Morrison family wants help with test preparation for their twins. Robert nodded approvingly. We're proud of how Armin has finally found his direction through contributing to family responsibilities. This experience has taught him valuable lessons about commitment and service that will serve him well in his future career development. The moment had arrived. I stood quietly, allowing their words to settle among the gathered relatives and friends before responding with the revelation that would transform everything they thought they knew about my summer activities and professional capabilities. Thank you for that introduction. I began calmly reaching for the portfolio case I had positioned nearby. Before we discuss next summer's arrangements, I think everyone should understand what actually happened this summer and what I've been building while providing childcare services. Patricia's confident expression faltered slightly as she noticed the professional materials I was organizing. Robert stopped mid-sentence in his conversation with Uncle David, sensing that something unexpected was about to occur. This summer, while caring for Emma Jake, Sophie Tyler Madison, and Lucas, I also founded and developed LearnBridge, a comprehensive educational support service that has become one of the most successful tutoring enterprises in our region. I opened the first portfolio to reveal financial statements that documented weekly revenues exceeding $4,000 and monthly income approaching $18,000. LearnBridge currently serves 52 families throughout 3 communities, employs 15 qualified educational professionals, and has generated over $60,000 in revenue since June. The silence that followed was profound. Patricia's face reflected confusion and disbelief as she processed information that contradicted everything she believed about my activities and capabilities. Her signature response emerged as barely audible whisper. "What, that's impossible?" "It's not only possible," I continued, "it's documented with financial records, client testimonials, and outcome data that demonstrate measurable success in helping children overcome academic challenges and develop genuine enthusiasm for learning." I presented testimonial letters from families whose children had transformed under LearnBridge's innovative approaches. Mrs. Anderson's daughter had overcome mathematics anxiety and tested into advanced courses. The Rodriguez twins had improved their reading comprehension by 3 grade levels during our 10-week program. Furthermore, I announced reaching for the Northwestern University acceptance packet. I've been accepted to Northwestern's MBA program with a full academic scholarship based on LearnBridge's success and community impact. I'll be starting graduate school in September while continuing to operate and expand my educational business. Robert's expression shifted from confusion to something approaching shock as the implications became clear. His son had not only built a successful business while living under their roof, but had earned recognition from a prestigious university for entrepreneurial achievement they had never suspected. Aunt Carol stepped forward with dawning understanding. "The educational progress we've seen in Tyler, Madison, and Lucas, that came from your professional expertise, not just family babysitting." "Exactly." I confirmed opening portfolios that documented each child's academic growth through systematic educational intervention. Emma improved her mathematics performance by 4 grade levels. Jake's reading ability advanced from below average to exceptional. Sophie developed cognitive and social skills that exceed typical developmental expectations. The evidence was overwhelming. Before and after assessments work samples demonstrating growth teacher testimonials and photographic documentation of engagement and achievement provided irrefutable proof of professional effectiveness that my parents had never recognized or valued. Amanda Clark, who had arrived as planned to represent the professional relationships I had developed, stepped forward to add her perspective. "Armin has built something remarkable that's having genuine impact throughout our educational community. LearnBridge is providing services that traditional schools and tutoring programs couldn't deliver effectively." 3 families present at the barbecue confirmed their experiences as satisfied clients, describing academic transformations their children had achieved through my innovative approaches to learning and development. The revelation continued building as I presented documentation of professional recognition media coverage, university partnerships, and expansion opportunities that positioned LearnBridge for regional growth and continued impact. Patricia struggled to process information that fundamentally contradicted her assumptions about my dependent status and lack of professional direction. Robert appeared equally stunned by evidence of entrepreneurial success that exceeded their own career achievements at comparable ages. This entire summer, while you believed I was learning responsibility through unpaid childcare, I was actually demonstrating professional capabilities and building business success that validates everything you've been telling relatives about my expertise and qualifications. The irony was now visible to everyone present. My parents had been marketing my services as professional quality educational support while treating me as unskilled labor profiting from my work, while denying me recognition or compensation for value that other families gladly paid premium rates to obtain. Uncle David broke the stunned silence. So while Patricia and Robert were charging Carol for professional educational services, you were actually providing those services while building your own successful business. That's exactly right, I confirmed. And now that business success has earned me acceptance to one of the country's top MBA programs, where I'll continue developing the expertise that will allow LearnBridge to expand and serve even more families throughout the region. The transformation in my parents' expressions was profound. Pride and satisfaction had been replaced by confusion, embarrassment, and the dawning realization that they had fundamentally misjudged my capabilities and character. The moment represented everything I had worked toward throughout the summer, complete vindication of my worth, undeniable evidence of my professional success, and public recognition of achievements they had dismissed as impossible just moments earlier. The immediate aftermath of my revelation was unlike anything I could have anticipated. The family gathering that had begun with my parents' confident assumptions about my dependent status and lack of direction had transformed into a celebration of entrepreneurial achievement that none of them had suspected. Patricia stood frozen for several moments, processing information that contradicted everything she believed about my summer activities and professional capabilities. Her confident maternal pride had been replaced by something approaching bewilderment as she struggled to reconcile my business success with her perception of me as an unfocused adult child, requiring guidance and structure. Robert's reaction was equally profound. His satisfaction with teaching me responsibility through unpaid labor had evaporated as he realized that I had been demonstrating exactly the kind of professional initiative and business acumen he claimed I lacked. The irony was inescapable. While he criticized my career direction, I had built something more successful than many of his law firm colleagues achieved in their first decade of practice. But perhaps the most significant transformation was in how other family members began treating me. Uncle David, who had previously offered well-meaning advice about finding my direction, now sought my perspective on business development and entrepreneurial strategies. Grandparents who had worried about my future prospects were suddenly asking for details about expansion plans and long-term growth potential. Aunt Carol's response was particularly meaningful. She approached me with tears in her eyes and a mixture of gratitude and embarrassment that was difficult to witness. I had no idea that the progress Tyler, Madison, and Lucas made was because of your professional expertise. I thought I was just getting family help, but you were providing services that transformed their academic abilities. The children themselves served as the most compelling evidence of my professional impact. Their confidence, enthusiasm for learning, and obvious affection for me demonstrated that my work had created genuine value rather than simply fulfilling childcare obligations. Emma proudly showed relatives her mathematics portfolio, explaining concepts she had mastered and expressing excitement about advanced courses she would take in the upcoming school year. Her transformation from anxious student to confident learner provided powerful testimony to the effectiveness of systematic educational intervention. Jake read excerpts from his original adventure novel to amazed family members who remembered his struggles with basic reading comprehension just months earlier. His obvious pride in his writing accomplishments and genuine love for storytelling revealed how dramatically appropriate teaching methods could transform academic experiences. The other children demonstrated similar remarkable progress that validated my educational approach, while providing concrete evidence of professional expertise that my parents had failed to recognize or value appropriately. As the afternoon continued, my parents were forced to confront not just their misjudgment of my capabilities, but their unfair treatment throughout the summer. They had profited from my services while providing no compensation or recognition, treating me as unskilled labor while marketing my work as professional quality educational support. The conversation that followed was difficult but necessary. Patricia and Robert struggled to acknowledge their mistakes without appearing foolish in front of extended family. But the evidence was too overwhelming to dismiss or rationalize. We had no idea you were building something this significant, Patricia finally admitted. We saw you working hard with the children and assumed you were finally accepting responsibility, but we completely missed that you were demonstrating professional expertise and entrepreneurial success. Robert's apology was more grudging, but equally important. I suppose we underestimated your abilities and potential. Your business achievement is impressive. More than impressive, actually. It's the kind of success I always hoped you would achieve, just not in ways we expected or recognized. Their acknowledgement felt like vindication for years of being undervalued and dismissed. But more importantly, it opened the possibility for a different kind of relationship, based on mutual respect, rather than parental disappointment and criticism. The practical implications were immediate and significant. My parents could no longer treat me as a dependent family member requiring guidance and support. I had demonstrated professional success that exceeded their expectations and earned recognition that validated my capabilities and judgment. Financial independence was now a reality rather than a distant goal. LearnBridge was generating sufficient income to cover my personal expenses, MBA program costs, and continued business expansion. I would be moving out of the family home, not because of conflict, but because of success that created new opportunities and responsibilities. The MBA program at Northwestern represented exactly the kind of advanced education my parents had always encouraged, but now I was pursuing it from a position of strength rather than academic desperation. My business success had earned the scholarship rather than family financial support, demonstrating initiative and achievement that validated my professional potential. LearnBridge would continue operating and expanding during my graduate studies with Amanda Clark, managing daily operations while I focused on developing strategic partnerships and exploring opportunities for regional growth. The business had evolved beyond my initial response to family injustice into something with legitimate potential for long-term career success and community impact. But perhaps the most satisfying aspect was knowing that I had proven my worth through results, rather than arguments or protests. I had responded to unfair treatment by building something valuable that spoke for itself, demonstrating maturity and professional judgment that my parents had doubted. The children I had worked with all summer would continue benefiting from programs I had established. Emma, Jake, and Sophie would enter the school year with confidence and skills that would serve them throughout their academic careers. Tyler, Madison, and Lucas would return to their regular routines with learning abilities and enthusiasm that exceeded anything their mother had hoped for during her recovery period. Most importantly, I had discovered abilities and interests that I never knew I possessed. The experience of building LearnBridge had revealed entrepreneurial skills, leadership capabilities, and educational expertise that would guide my professional development for years to come. The life lesson that emerged from this experience was profound and multifaceted. Strategic thinking combined with persistent effort could transform seemingly unfair situations into opportunities for growth and achievement. Patience and preparation were more powerful than reactive anger when dealing with people who undervalued your worth. Professional success required demonstrating value through results rather than demanding recognition through complaints. But the most important lesson was about recognizing potential in yourself and others. My parents had failed to see my capabilities until I made them impossible to ignore. Their mistake taught me to look beyond surface appearances and initial impressions when evaluating people's worth and potential. As our family barbecue concluded that evening, I felt a sense of completion that went beyond business success or parental recognition. I had proven to myself that I could overcome unfair circumstances through strategic thinking and determined effort. I had built something meaningful that created value for dozens of families, while developing my own professional capabilities. The upcoming MBA program would provide opportunities to expand my impact and develop additional expertise in business leadership and educational innovation. LearnBridge would continue growing and serving families throughout our region and beyond. But perhaps most importantly, I had earned my parents' respect and recognition through achievements that spoke for themselves. Our relationship could now be based on mutual acknowledgement of worth rather than disappointed expectations and defensive responses. The summer that began with exploitation and undervaluation had concluded with triumph and transformation. I had turned my parents' unfair treatment into motivation for building something extraordinary, proving that strategic thinking and persistent effort could overcome almost any obstacle to success and recognition. The 26-year-old man who stood in his childhood bedroom staring at that childcare schedule in June had become someone entirely different by August, a successful entrepreneur, a recognized educational professional, and an independent adult worthy of respect and admiration. And this was only the beginning. What challenges have you faced where people underestimated your abilities or took advantage of your willingness to help? How did you prove your worth and claim the recognition you deserved? Share your stories of turning unfair situations into opportunities for growth and success. Your experiences might inspire others who are facing similar challenges in their own families or professional lives. If this story resonated with you, please like this video to help others discover it. Subscribe for more stories about overcoming obstacles and achieving success despite difficult circumstances. Share this with someone who might benefit from seeing how strategic thinking and determined effort can transform unfair treatment into personal triumph. Thank you for joining me on this journey of discovery and growth. Remember that your worth is not determined by others' recognition, but your potential is unlimited when you combine preparation with opportunity. Until next time, keep believing in yourself and building something meaningful that speaks for itself.